Mm. Mm-mm-mm. This is amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is really amazing that we have to be talking about this right now. Now, let me gather my thoughts a little bit because I wanted to please everybody about this, right? The WWE, most importantly, WWE President Nick Khan. I see how he got the position of WWE President Nick Khan. Let's be fucking honest around here. The only reason that this douchebag guy who has 0 to -10 type of knowledge of the wrestling business suddenly becomes the WWE president is strictly because his last name is fucking Khan. So that way, they control the AEW fans and the fan base of like saying, well, we got a better Khan than you. Right? I mean, that's the whole case about it. That's the only reason why any of this is even going on. Now, Dave Meltzer, gotta love him, huh? You gotta love this guy. Dave Meltzer basically outright said that the WWE were in talks with New Japan. Now, as far as back as in April or March, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that the WWE sees AEW as a threat, and they decide that they want to destroy the entire wrestling market as a whole, just so the WWE will continue to become the only biggest game in town. Anyone who doesn't see that needs to have their head examined. Do you honestly think that the WWE as a whole want anything to do with New Japan other than to take New Japan away from AEW? Because if that was the case, why didn't they make negotiations to acquire New Japan years ago, before AEW was even a thing? It's not like they didn't have opportunities. And by that time, their quality of wrestling was 10 times superior than what they are right now. But because Tony Khan opened the forbidden door and allowed a working relationship to occur between AEW, New Japan, and Impact, bringing on the likes of Kojima, Yuji Nagata, Kenta, El Phantasmo, all those guys. You have John Moxley, the AEW staple, still currently New Japan's United States champion, the IWGP United States champion. You have all of that. And yet now, the WWE decided, oh, we need to expand our market. And New Japan will be just that, for us to expand our market into Japan. Again, why do you not do that years ago? You have more than over 40 years to even think about acquiring New Japan Pro Wrestling in terms of a partnership. And as soon as Tony Khan decides to do it, you consider him as a threat. Now, there's going to be a lot of podcasters, fake-ass podcasters, a lot of people out there. They're going to tell you, real wrestling fans, that you are a bunch of marks, and that if New Japan has any type of business sense, would never do business with the WWE in that entire aspect. So, for those WWE marks out there who who think I'm just going to be bashing all that stuff, and which I will. But let's really talk about the pros and cons, per se, about the partnership between WWE and New Japan, right? Now, business aspect. If you're New Japan Wrestling and you're going to expand your market into the United States, you want to align yourself with the biggest American market in the world, which will be the WWE. They're higher in production. They got more of the money. They got more of the social media aspect. They got more shows that they can produce every single week. Hell, they even have Peacock, so even non-casual wrestling fans can just stumble upon the likes of Ospreay and Okada and Shingo Takagi and all those other guys and say, wow, I actually like these guys. Maybe I should see more of them. And eventually we'll become fans of the New Japan market. Right? You will have your guys from the WWE going into New Japan and having some big stories going over there. I know everyone is probably wondering, wow, we're going to finally get to see the Usos versus the Gorillas of Destiny, God, Tonga versus, Samoa. That's going to be huge, right? And in all aspects, and yes, you can also rekindle Finn Balor's return to the Bullet Club, which will also be great. AJ Styles can probably make his return into the Bullet Club as well too. I mean, there's so many type of scenarios that you can actually set up that will be very beneficial to New Japan and on both sides, basically. And like I said, the WWE is a media machine. They can produce the hell out of anything that will go about promoting New Japan's product and vice versa. And of course, on top of that, this could be the catalyst for them to build NXT Japan and build a performance center in Japan. And, you'll get talent from all over the parts of Asia to finally compete and, put their skills on the test. And that will be eventually good for the business, right? When you think about all of this, why did they not do that years ago? When they brought Shinsuke Nakamura from New Japan over to the WWE, right then and there, that should have set up, well, let's start doing business with New Japan. Let's see what we can gather around and all of it. But no, they didn't do that. They got lazy. They got lazy because they have all those Hollywood writers who have no idea what wrestling is about, the purity of wrestling, the style of wrestling, and they're just there for the paycheck, basically. And now, fast forward to 2021, we see a man get burned alive. We got zombies surrounding the ring, eating up the Miz, in which, by the way, he's perfectly fine. He's going to be back on Monday for another edition of Miz TV. All right? You got a lot of people who've been put out of place. You got a guy like Apollo Crews, all of a sudden becomes Nigerian. You got a lot of craziness going on in the WWE. Goofiness. You got Bad Bunny doing his performance. Now there's even talks of Cardi B wanting to become the host of SummerSlam. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Why now? Why, after all of this, you decide to acquire the services of New Japan? Well, it's very obvious. You want to destroy AEW. That's how it works. Anyone who knows Vince McMahon from the 80s until now knows that he hates competition and he wants to destroy as much competition as he possibly can. Did anyone ever remember the invasion warfare between WCW and the WWF, or the WWE for that matter? And it was hot. It was great. But then it fizzled out and it turned into shit. And remember when we had those years in which the WWE was the only game in town, how boring, how pathetic, and how stupid it was. Think about this for a minute. Let's just take a look at a guy like Okada and his style of wrestling. Is he going to go into the WWE and is the WWE going to tell him, well, you can bring your New Japan style over into our ring? Or are they going to tell him, well, certain moves that you do are not PG enough, or it goes against, concussion protocol or any type of standards, what it may be. So you may need to tone down your moveset a bit. That's why a guy like Kushida, as a great guy as he is, has faltered. Because the moveset that he was introducing in New Japan doesn't resonate into the likes of NXT. Let alone if he ever makes it to the main roster, it's going to turn into Same for Will Ospreay. Now, everyone would love to see a Will Ospreay-Seth Rollins deal because, those two have been going back and forth on social media and all that stuff. But Seth Rollins, you're a WWE fighting style type of guy. You have a particular type of moveset that will not resonate well in a New Japan ring. Think about it. If I'm Vince McMahon and I have Seth Rollins in Wrestle Kingdom against Will Ospreay, and on the surface, it's going to be a fantastic display, right? A big name star, WWE guy going up against Will Ospreay in the Tokyo Dome. Huge. And then during the match, Will Ospreay comes out with one of his hidden blades and knocks Seth Rollins' head clean right off. What do you think is going to happen with that? Is Vince going to try to sue New Japan? Is Vince going to try to punish Will Ospreay, per se? And, because let's face it, a lot of the WWE guys, if they go to New Japan, they're going to have their asses handed to them. They're not going to come out the same way they are. And maybe some of them can be able to do that. Finn Balor can do that. He didn't start out from the WWE and moved on to New Japan. No. AJ Styles can do that. He started from TNA, which is a reckless, well, I don't want to say reckless because, God, I loved TNA back in the day when AJ Styles was in there. But it was a more extreme aerial high-flying style of wrestling compared to the WWE as a whole, right? And a lot of people don't really think about this because, listen, it's always about AEW and WWE and how AEW is a bunch of indie marks who doesn't know what good wrestling is. It doesn't understand proper storytelling and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really fucking matter. It doesn't really matter, doesn't it? A lot of us enjoy AEW because it's not WWE. We don't like the professionally induced boringness that goes on in the WWE on a daily basis. We don't like seeing zombies. We don't like seeing slow, boring Randy Orton. Even though a likes of a Randy Orton in New Japan will be fun and great, can you actually see him do a New Japan style? Hell no. Name one star from the WWE that went into New Japan. And I'm talking about an organic WWE guy, not someone that came from the Indies, which nowadays is kind of hard to come by, but can actually really do well. You see, my fear is that a WWE New Japan merger will be great on paper and will look great for at least a year. But then after that, it will grow stale because the WWE have their own rules, their own regulations. They have all their little bullshit out there. And New Japan have their own rules, their own regulations, and they have their own bullshit over there. And it doesn't clash. It clashes better with AEW because it allows them freedom. It allows them freedom to go and do whatever the hell they want. If they sign this deal with the WWE, you know what happens? They become the exclusive American partner to New Japan. Let me repeat that. The exclusive American partner to New Japan. What does that mean? That means Vince McMahon owns you, which means you're not allowed to go and compete in ROH. You may not even compete in AAA. You may not even compete in REVPRO. And yes, I know I'm talking about Mexico and the UK, but let's be honest. You really think they're going to allow them to do all of that? No, absolutely not. But it does destroy the market of AEW. It does destroy the market of Impact. It does destroy the market of ROH, and this is exactly what the WWE wants. They want to destroy. They don't want to include everybody together. They want to destroy, because this is their business model, and that has been their business model for over 50, 60 years now. You see a territory that is taking away your income, you take them out of business quicker than a hiccup. And then once you get rid of them, you mock them, you turn them into a joke, they slowly die. And the WWE is the only one left standing. I'm surprised a lot of people don't even think about this scenario. Right? I'm really highly surprised about this. And people are just joking with Tony Khan and his promo, and they're going to act like, oh, you're such a crybaby. I can't believe that he would say that. He can't even stand up to good competition. You dudes are so ridiculous. You know that? You're absolutely ridiculous. It's really pathetic, the guys that you're actually here. You should be thanking Tony Khan right now. He may not be your most favorite booker, right? He may have done some things in which a certain man from Kentucky can persuade you to say he's doing a bad job at doing. But it's fun. It's fun. It's not putting me to sleep. It's not making me feel, well, I'm bored with this. And the people who are against it, they're from a different time. The times of the Rock and Roll Express in the 80s, in which wrestling was of a different style back then. They're not into the modern wrestling style. They're not into the flips. They're not into the big moments. They're not into the hard hitting. They're not into the kicks that could potentially injure someone's career. They're not into all of that. They're into big, larger than life, muscle bound motherfuckers who comes out to 80s style music with wild hair and acting like, woo, I'm a badass and blah, blah, blah. It's a different time now. People nowadays want more than just that. They want substance. What makes a good wrestling match? That's another thing. What really makes a good wrestling match? Is it the ring psychology? Is it the stars involved? Is it the promos or how you market? Or is it the amount of brutality that you unleash upon one another in the ring on a daily basis? I mean, what is it? Because it seems like everyone with a mind of a dog feels that they know what is a perfect wrestling match. I don't know what's a perfect wrestling match. I just know whether I like a match or I don't like a match. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't like any of the matches on WWE. There are some matches in AEW I don't like. I'm going to be honest with you. If you're a fan of Orange Cassidy, I'm not really much of a fan of Orange Cassidy. But that doesn't mean, but on the other side of the spectrum, you know, aside from what Roman Reigns is doing, what the hell is SmackDown doing? Really? You might as well just call it the Roman Reigns Show and Friends. Because that's what it is. And until John Cena comes in, yeah, that's going to be big for a while. And after that, then what? You guys get so hyped about these little moments that you don't even think about the long-term aspects of those moments. But you're so embedded into your head that this is just WWE and AEW. You know what? Vince McMahon, he did it to you yet again. Because you're doing the same damn thing when WCW was going up against the WWE. And when their business got shot down, you guys cheered and you were like, wow, this is amazing. Now we're going to get all the WCW guys going up against WWE guys, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be awesome for wrestling, and turned out to be shit. With the exception of Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and all those other guys, everything else went into shit. And you're doing it again. You're praising the man whose sole reason for AEW's existence is because their product was shitty. And now you're going to bring in New Japan Wrestling to, up this point, has been the best thing going on today because they were their own entity. They didn't have to listen to anyone. Anyone who has an account and is willing to go through Japan's bullshit will see fantastic wrestling. WWE doesn't know shit about G1. They don't know shit about anything that they do. And they certainly don't understand the hard-hitting aspect, which is New Japan. What's next? Is the WWE going to tell New Japan, well, you no longer have an LA dojo. We're going to give you a performance center. Yeah, that is going to be the aspect right there, right? I want you to really think about the long-term implications should WWE and New Japan start emerging, right? Because it's not like the WWE is going to allow New Japan stars to go into AEW, to go into ROH, to go into Impact. No. You're exclusive with us and no one else. And that's bad. That's very bad. What does Tony Khan want to do? He wants everybody to be included, especially the WWE. He is not going to lock down anybody, anyone. He feels that wrestling needs to be wrestling for the fans. Fans want to see dream matches. Let it happen. Don't try to close the forbidden door forever because of your pettiness. And let's be honest, the WWE as a whole is petty. Absolutely petty. You don't want that. You don't want that. In a perfect world, there will be in a huge event in which WWE, AEW, and New Japan all have their stars competing against one another. And if this is where it's leading to, then I am all excited for this. This will be the biggest thing to ever happen. In a perfect world, if all three companies just got together, just those three companies got together, you, the wrestling fan, will be entitled to seeing the biggest matches in the history of professional wrestling. All you really need to do is just allow wrestlers to compete in other wrestlers' territories. That's it. No having to hold down anybody. No rules, regulations, or any bullshit. Just have your matches, just have your titles defended in AEW pay-per-view, New Japan pay-per-view. If it's just those three, screw everyone else. They could be their own entity. But if the WWE decides, well, we're just going to destroy the entire wrestling business from within, and in order to do so, we will acquire New Japan, make them believe that this is the biggest thing that can ever go for them because they'll get exposure, they'll get fans, they'll get people buying their subscriptions, but at the same time, we'll slowly make sure that they die from within because they don't know how to handle New Japan. And New Japan doesn't know how to handle WWE's system. It's that simple. But, well, who was am I? I guess I'm just a mark for the business because Vince McMahon tells you you're a fucking mark for the business. Because Jim Cornette tells you you're a mark for the business. It's funny that anyone that's established with the WWE from the past is telling you that you're a mark because you like indie-style wrestling because it's not like the WWE. You notice that, right? You are a mark for not liking the WWE. That's their whole premise. If you like indie wrestling, if you like alternative style wrestling, you are a mark. If you are a WWE fan, you're a fan of sports entertainment. That's how it works. Oh yeah, a sports entertainment company want to acquire the services of a wrestling company. Okay, let's see how that works. Anyway, I have been rambling on a lot. I'm going to put this on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And let me know what you guys figured about the comments below. And I will talk to you next time. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll be around later on tonight for Double or Nothing. How about that? Anyway, until then, this is Gunhillbain in the building, signing off.